1,000 years after the collapse of industrial civilization, a forest exuded toxic vapors called the Sea of Decay, covered an earth strewn with rusting ruins, threatening human survival.
Those words are the introduction to Nausicaa and the Valley of the Wind, a Studio Ghibli feature film. Like many people, I adore Studio Ghibli. I am a devoted fan, so much so that I've even been to the Ghibli Museum in Japan, which is a pain in the ass to get. Really complicated, but totally worth it. And above all, I love the works of Hayao Miyazaki, just like this one, just like Nausicaa. Why? Because his narratives are different. There's an extra spice there, directly fueled by Miyazaki's own personal beliefs. And as a leftist eco-activist, I am very much aligned with those beliefs myself. Recently I rewatched Nausicaa and something interesting came to my attention. How this narrative is different from Pokémon and How to Train Your Dragon and all sorts of narratives that also contain fictional creatures. Yes, I know it sounds crazy, but follow this rabbit hole here with me. Let's talk fantastical creatures. Pokémon is actually a perfect example of what I want to talk about here. It's a universe full of magical creatures that are something between tools and stupid humans. Despite the whole talk of friendship and respect, Pokémon are effectively enslaved by humans and in many cases forced to fight until literal exhaustion. If we imagine Pokémon as actual animals, the only reason a Pokémon could love a human would be Stockholm Syndrome or maybe even lobotomy. But Pokémon is not alone in there. Both Eastern and Western fantasy is filled with those special animals that act in a way that is completely subordinate to human needs and totally detached from what an animal would ever do, which often includes physical injuries, a thing that would send most wild and domesticated animals into a panic frenzy. So why do writers write like this, if animals don't behave like this? Well, the animal companion, the animal element, can be a super interesting and well-written allegory for many things. We love Hedwig in the Harry Potter series, and we love Appa in Avatar: The Last Airbender. We are supposed to. They have their strengths and personalities, but they still carry some of that animal innocence. And when they are in danger, then the character's innocence is also in danger. We see Daenerys' dragons growing, and when they become a force to be reckoned with, we cheer for them. They represent her growing power, her growing leadership. Please ignore the last season and go read the books. But we must admit that if we don't see them as allegories, but as animals instead, they all act nonsensically. I mean, not even dogs are so practical. They're too practical. They are something between a tool and a dumb human. In a way, their mere existence reminds me of that Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy scene.
Now, it is such a bizarrely improbable coincidence that anything so mind-bogglingly useful could evolve purely by chance that many thinkers have chosen to see it as a final and clinching proof of the non-existence of God.
So, why am I telling you all this? Because Miyazaki dares to do something different. We are currently living a period we dubbed the Anthropocene on our planet. Anthropos is the Greek word for human. We, humans, have become the most impactful and the most relevant force in our biosphere. As the introduction words, the ones I put at the beginning of this video, explain, Nausicaa is a post-Anthropocene story. It's a world in which humans used to be the center of the biological life, But not anymore. Humans killed humans and everything else in their wake, and now some new natural force took the center stage. Part of what we see in this movie is those vast deserts created by humans in their lust for power. And of course we think they're lifeless because this is the symbolic connection that most people have with deserts, desert lifeless. But right at the beginning of the movie, we see that life is actually quite possible there. A different kind of life. A human-excluding life. The spores. The existence of the spores is perfectly explainable by Charles Darwin's The Origin of Species. There was this unoccupied niche, the vast deserts, and they're vast, so there's a lot of them. One day, by chance, a life form that could benefit from those nutrients found this niche and no competition, perfect. So it started to thrive and spread. And as many natural processes, it started a chain reaction. The first spores are the really sturdy species that paved the way to everything we see in that crazy fungi forest ecosystem. What could be a threat to a system like that? Humans, of course. It's always humans. Imagine that at some point there were many fungi forests, but only one of them had the ancestors of the insects we see in the movie. Well, all the other fungi forests ended up being burned by humans. But this one that had the really aggressive insects, well, humans couldn't penetrate those defenses. This forest survived and spread. The insects are the antibodies. If you're thinking those insects are killing machines constantly seeking for humans to eliminate, you are still using Pokémon or Harry Potter logic. Those animals exist without their relationship to humans. In fact, in the movie we can see many moments that humans are just strolling around them and the insects are like, The insects, like everything else in Nausicaa, were carefully crafted to look like they really evolved from a natural process. There are things they care about and other things that they just don't. Do they care about being stepped on? No. Do they care about other insects being killed? Oh, yes. We can also assume they are bothered by other things, though it's not really clear in the movie. Maybe loud noises, maybe fire, maybe even the chemicals or the hormones the human body produces when stressed. So why do they care about it? Well, that's not really the right question here. It's not a matter of cause and reaction. It's more in the lines of the insect populations that happen to care about those things and to swarm aggressively to eliminate the source of disturbance. Those were the ones that happened to have a better chance of survival and reproduction. So they spread their genes, and thus more insects with those behaviors existed in the world. Survival of the fittest. This is what it means. Those behaviors are similar to bees, for example, so it's not crazy to imagine them in other creatures, especially insects. When a bee dies, when you step on a bee, it produces a chemical that enrages other bees. And also, everybody knows that when a bee stings someone, it dies, so it is willing to sacrifice itself for the benefit of the hive. Of course, not all bee species, but those behaviors exist. And they are quite similar to the insects in the fungi forest. The same kind of uber-aggressive triggered reaction sounds like a logical response to a world that used to look like... The new human world is small, and it is respectful, even curious about the new biome. It doesn't look like a group that would like to provoke and create a new Anthropocene. So what happens when we are introduced to another human faction that is not interested in staying small and shows no respect for the new biome? An allergic reaction. And it is spearheaded by the forest's greatest threat against humans, the mighty Omus. Do you see what I'm talking about here? Yes, we see those creatures interacting with different humans in different ways, but they're not there just to fulfill some hero's journey or some person's journey. They're there despite humans, and we can imagine their lives and behaviors if humans didn't exist at all. They are not a tool, they are alive. And no character recognizes and embraces this more than the movie's main character, Princess Nausicaa. Cool. We've established that those creatures feel like real creatures that evolved from natural processes, but how about this special relationship and strange relationship with the movie's main character, Nausicaa? This is one of the most fascinating aspects of this movie, in my humble opinion, so please allow me to fanboy here just for a second. According to Miyazaki, not that I've seen any interviews, this is just my interpretation, okay? But according to Miyazaki, Nausicaa is the next evolutionary step for humankind. We're deep in the rabbit hole now, yes! She comes from a culture that's very accepting of the forest, which we find out in the movie that is the correct evolutionary option, as the forest is the one thing that purifies the water that humans need to drink. And she takes it one step above. Her personality, her empathy, her care for the forest presents real competitive advantages. Nausicaa is the only way humanity can survive. This is represented in an allegory by the end of the movie. She forges an alliance with the Omus. She finds a way to communicate her respect, and the Omus accept it. The Omus were the enemies of humanity, but not this new humanity. The insect's rage plus Nausicaa's empathy is the only combination strong enough to stop the worst kind of humanity, represented by this guy, and also spare the lives of the village that's naturally and culturally evolving to respect the forest. After this first connection, we can easily imagine a world where Nausicaa's descendants will more frequently form bonds of friendship with the forest. A new kind of humanity, one that is connected to the land in a way that is full of care, empathy, and compassion. Which is, again, exactly what Hayao Miyazaki believes and wishes for all of us. This authenticity, this truth, this is what attracts us all to Miyazaki's works. This is why he's so brilliant. Thanks for watching, everyone. I love talking about Ghibli. I hope you like Ghibli as much as I do. Because I plan on other videos. I just had so much fun with this one. If you want to help me make more videos, I have a brand new Patreon. It's very deserted, like the Omo deserts over there. So if you could contribute, it would mean a lot. I would love to make more videos like this. I would love to turn this into something that I can always make. But of course, money pressures in the world. Anyway, if you watch this till the very end, please add on the comments below a behavior that you think that if animals had, they would do better in this world dominated by humans, this biosphere dominated by humans. It can be a behavior or a trait or anything that you think would work biologically. Anyway, curious to hear what you're gonna talk about, and see you next time. Ciao!